Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining me. In this video, we're going to be building out our email module. Essentially, we'll be sending emails or allowing people to send, us to send emails through our application. And to do that, we're going to be using a package called PHP Mailer. So if you go to packages.org and you find PHP Mailer, we can go ahead and install that. So we'll scroll down till we find Composer, and you're going to open up a terminal or command prompt depending on what you're using. I've already gone into my XAMPP htdocs. I forgot I wasn't using Linux, so I tried to use the clear command, but that doesn't work. Anyways, or not Linux, sorry, Apple Mac. Anyways, you're going to paste that Composer into your command prompt there, and then you're just going to press enter and it's going to install it. Now, I've already installed it, so there'll actually be some errors, and you actually have to use a different command if you've already installed it to update it. But I've already installed it. You should go ahead and install it. If you run into any errors while installing it, you can go ahead and try again until it works. It should actually give you it should give you the reason why it failed in the command prompt. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you remember where we left off last time, we just built out a brand new component system where we can actually build HTML components using PHP. And now we're going to take a step back from what we visually see, and we're going to move back to the code. Okay, so PHPMailer, in order for it to work, it uses something called namespaces. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this email.module.php, and we'll probably also build out an IMAP module as well, but that'll be a little bit later. I don't know if I'm doing that in the next video or a few videos down, but we'll eventually get to that. So for now, we're going to start with this. So we're going to open up our PHP tags, and I'm going to, I thought I'd copied the use for this because it does use namespaces, as I just said. And so if you've never used a namespace before, essentially what it is it allows you to call a specific class with, if let's say that you have multiple mailer classes. In fact, let me just open up a tab so I can show you exactly. Okay, so this will tell you which W3 schools is a good source. But essentially, this will tell you exactly what namespaces are. In a nutshell, it's for organization. But and if you're putting, in fact, eventually I'll probably go through and I'll convert everything that we've done to actual namespaces. There we go. I'll convert everything that we've done to actual namespaces at some point, and that'll probably be one of the last videos that we do. It's just when I first started building I didn't even think about using namespaces. I don't usually use them in my own applications, but when you're developing a professional product or any sort of professional thing, you'll want to use namespaces. It's industry standard, and other developers will not let you off lightly if you don't use namespaces. Okay, so class email, and we're going to say private $_mail, and I'm going to create a constructor here, and inside this constructor we're going to have a bunch of different variables, and really it's just 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that public function construct, and I'm going to say $user name. And by default, I'm going to set that equal to config get email.user. And then I'm going to say $password, and it's going to be set to the password. And then we also need to define a port, and by default, the port's going to be 465. So port is equal to. Now, this is a default SMTP port, which if you have hosting, you can actually take a look at that. It should be in your email config. Like if you're using cPanel, it would be like if you were trying to set it up to send from your phone or anything like that, it will give you directions. Okay, so now that we've set up a constructor, we need to set up some variables. So anytime we instantiate this email class, I want to instantiate this connection. And essentially, we're going to assign it to mail. So we're going to say that $this underscore mail is equal to new PHP Mailer. And we're going to pass in true. Essentially, this will allow us to debug, which, in fact, you know what? We can actually change this to config and say it, and we'll use email debug. Or, you know what? Yeah, we'll use email debug so that way we have more freedom. Because I was going to just say app.productions. That way, anytime that we're out of production, but you know what? I want more control over that, so I'm going to set debug like that. And I'm actually going to go into my env now. I'm just going to say email underscore. Actually, you know what? I'll set this up in actual config, the email.config PHP, like so. And I'm going to do, we'll do config set email.debug, and we're going to set that to true. Default. Now I'm going to create I'm going to create the username, email, password, all that information. I can't really let that be seen on screen because I don't want to give that information away. But we'll actually need to create some variables here. So set, say, email.user, password, and host. Now, we are setting and we could set the port here, but the port's going to be one of two numbers, and so there's not as many options. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill out this information off screen real quick. And spelled that. Okay. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to open up another tab, and I'm just going to go to my hosting real quick. And do keep in mind that I am using Ashara hosting. You can use any host that you want, and I am not sponsored. I would totally love to be, but I don't have enough subs for that. So we're just gonna go and open up Ashara hosting here, go into my. Alrighty. So I've got, where is it? There it is. Okay. Now I have a couple. I have quite a few. I'm just going to close out of this. So in cPanel, you'll see something like this. I've got some email accounts and my domain. So I do have. Okay, so I do have a support at DAG Webs.dev. Okay, so I'm just going to check that email real quick and we'll see if, which I shouldn't have any. And y'all can email this email. I probably won't check it much, but y'all, you know, I probably won't check that email much anyways, but you could use it if you wanted to. Just gonna go and grab the last. Okay. So now that I verified that that email does in fact exist, I'm going to pull my email module back over here and we're going to continue building. So I'm going to say this underscore mail, and we're going to point to the host, and that is a capital H. And I'm going to get my email.host. And there is another thing. So we're going to say that this is SMTP. And if you're wondering where I'm getting this information from, if we go back to, we'll just do a PHP Mailer. Open PHP Mailer like this. Well, their GitHub has. Okay. So as you can see, this has the use. And then our requireds are actually inside our autoloader for Composer, which is automatically installed. But as you can see, this is where I'm getting the information that I need. And I'm breaking up these individuals to create a function that will allow better functionality and can scale with our application. But that is where I'm getting the information of what I'm going to be sending. Okay. Okay. Come on. Why is it giving me such trouble? There we go. Okay. So now we're going to set auth to true. So this, and then mail, and then auth, or SMTP auth, and then we'll get the username, the password, and then we're going to use PHPMailer encrypt, and this will be start TLS, like so. And again, this comes directly from the documentation for PHPMailer. And then finally, we'll set the port. So this will be our constructor. And so now, what we'll do is we'll create a send function. So in our send function, we'll definitely need a to, a subject, and a message. There we go. Okay. But we'll also need something like a from, and we'll need a reply. Let's see. We'll need a CC, a BCC, attachments, and use HTML. And by default, I'll set that to true. And then for the attachment, by default, I'll set that equal to an empty array. And in fact, I'll set most of these equal to an empty array by default. And I think what I'll do for our from and reply is I'll actually create I'll create a config get I'll call this email.from, and I'll do the same for the reply. Okay, so let me just pull this off screen real quick and add the email reply and email from to my email config real quick. Okay, so I've added that to my email config now. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if you remember, we have a couple of functions here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a try catch block. Try and catch. And so our cat, and again, this also comes directly from the lib, or not the lib, sorry, the documentation. So we're going to catch an exception here. So we're going to say exception, and this is going to be to $e. And then we're not going to do anything. We're just going to return false if the this fails, because we'll do an if statement. So if config debug. So if it is debug, then we'll do $e get message, we'll echo that out, and then we'll kill the application. But if we don't have the debug turned on, then we'll say return false, just so we know that it failed. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, this is going to be kind of a long class and a long episode. So we're going to say if is underscore array, and we're going to say $from, because we're going to set our from information first. So if we're getting an array, which is possible that we'll get an array if you set an array, because the function to set from, it can take in an array. It can also take in it can take in an associative or just a normal array as well. It can also take in just text. So we're gonna say that if is an array and it's from, then we're going to check and see if a key on that array exists. So if, and then array underscore key underscore exists, and we're going to check for address. So, and we're going to check $from. So if that array key does exist, and also the array key name exists, then we're going to say that $this mail, and we're going to set the from field to be from address, from name. Now, there might be other cases though. So we're also going to check if the array key exists for name aside from, and the array key does not exist exists, and we're going to check for address, which technically speaking, because this would also be possible if there's another key there, but we don't know what that key might be, so we're going to just say that it doesn't exist, and we're only going to put the name field. Now, it did autocomplete that, but there's also another one, and you guessed it. Instead of name, we're going to be using address. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and we're going to put the not here, and we're going to remove the not from here. So if this condition is true, now there is another condition in which we can check. Else if, and if you remember in our helper function, we actually created a isAsoc function. So we can check to see if in fact the array is an associative. So if it has a key and it's greater than 0, then we know for a fact that it's an associative array. So what we can do is, if helpers is ASOC, and we're just going to check from, then what we're going to do is we're going to say for each $from is key value, we're just going to set the key value like so. Do want the key value helper is its helper. Okay. Now there is one other condition where this is not an ASOC function. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this for each loop. And in this else statement here, we're going to paste that. And we're just going to get rid of this key value and say $. And then we're going to change this to be $. Email. So now if this is not an array, we're going to do an else statement here, and we're just going to say this mail set from $from, like so. Great, that's our from. Now it's time to do our to, and this is going to be basically the exact same code. And we could extract this to a function. In fact, why don't we do that? Private function get send field. So, and then we'll take in $item. You know what? We'll do $from just so we don't have to change anything, like so. We don't actually have to return because it's setting that equal to inside the variable here. So now what we can do is we can get rid of this and say $this get send fields from $this get send fields y, and then this get send fields 2. Okay, so we've got to reply. Now it's time for CC. Now our CC, BCC, and everything else is going to be the same. So what we're going to do now is $this. We're going to say private function get fields, and we'll take in $2. Now, this is going to be similar, but a little bit different. And essentially, all we're going to do is we're going to say if is array $2. So if it is an array, then we'll just say $this. And in fact, we'll also add a You know what? I just realized that this function here is going to cause a problem. So what we can do actually is we'll get, we'll do set from, copy this, and then we'll say, actually I don't want to call this set from, I'm going to set from yield, and then we'll do set to yield, and then set send reply field. Okay, and we'll leave the froms, but we're going to change so the first one's fine now. Second one, this actually sets, so you have to say add address, and that's what the problem is. So we'll just copy this, and anything that says set from in here, we're going to do set address, like so. And then on this, instead of set from or set address, we're going to say add reply to. Okay. So I'm going to copy that, paste that, paste that, paste this, paste that. Okay. Oh, and one more. Okay, so now the functions are fixed. So we'll go in here. We'll say set to fields, set reply fields, and set from fields. Okay. So now we're going to create, and since there are only two of these, we're just going to call this set fields, like so. And this will only take in a single email, but it can have multiple emails. So what we'll do is first, in fact, we'll take in another property, comma, CC, and by default, this will be equal to false. And then, so now what we'll do is if $CC, and then we'll paste this. So if it is an array, then we'll say for each $CC to as $email, and this one will be this mail add CC. We'll take in $u. If it's not an array, it will be a single item, which we'll know for a fact. Now, if it's not CC, then we'll know that it's BB. or BCC, sorry. And so essentially we're just going to copy that. So instead of add CC, this is now add BCC. So there's one more function that we'll need to create, and this will be for attachments. And this will basically be the same to get reply field. So I'm going to copy and paste this and change this to be set attach field. And this will take in, let's see, so it could be an associative or it could just be text. So we'll say $attachment. Or you know what? We'll just leave from here, because to be honest, I don't want to deal with changing that. So essentially, we know that there will either be the name of the file or the address of the file. So we can leave all of this the same and change this to add attachment, like so. Copy this, change this reply to. Now, essentially this is all the same code. The only difference is what we're using here. We could have put this all in a single function and just used a switch statement, but to be honest, I'm lazy. I don't feel like adding code. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna say $this set field CC, $this set field. Hold it set field. Set fields, that's what I called it. Okay. So we're going to say set fields, and then we'll take in CC, and then this will be BCC. This will be true. This will be true. Because by default, we go back down here. This is, oh no, it should be true. Okay. So we're going to go back to this and say true. And then we're going to say $this, set attachment field to attachment. Okay. So it's going to try all of that. And next, what we're going to do is we're going to create the send function. So first we're going to set HTML to be HTML. By default, that's set to true. Then we're going to say $this mail, and we're going to point to the subject and set that equal to the subject. We're going to set the body equal to the message, and then we're going to set the alt body also equal to the message. But here we're going to say strip underscore tags first, and then message. So this will send just a pure text message, and rather than sending like the actual text. Okay. So now that we've done, and this double checks, this double checks to make sure that there are no tags. So if you send HTML but you disable to use HTML, it gets rid of the tags just in case you try sending HTML. Okay. So once that's done, we then actually send it. So we'll do $this, and then underscore mail, and then send. Okay. So if we go to our index, now we can test this to make sure that there are no errors. But honestly, there's a big possibility that this will fail because of one issue, and that's because I can't modify the send, like how long it takes to send. So if it exceeds the amount that it allows to send, because I'm not on the same server, it's not going to be quick. So it might take a while or might not, but if it takes a while, it'll time out before it actually is time to send, and it will fail every time. And there's nothing I can do about that on here until this is up on an actual server that, like the same server that the email server's on. Because when it's on there, you actually can use localhost, and you can connect via localhost, which is a lot faster. So we're gonna give this a try first, though. So we're gonna say that $sign is equal to new email, like that. Because if we come to our email module here, we have to instantiate it first, and then use the send function. Now you can pass in your username and password if you want to send from other accounts, or you can use your default, which for me is my email.user and password. So I'm going to say $mail send, and I'm just going to do, so I'm gonna do just plain text. So let me go and check and see what email accounts I have here. Okay, I've got an admin. So I'm going to just open up this admin email real quick, which again, probably won't ever check this. So if you spam it a bunch or anything, I won't check it anyways, so there's no point. But we can do admin DAG Webs dev 2. So we'll say the subject, and we'll just do test, test, test. Now I can set the from manually, but I'm just going to leave that default. So if we go back to our email here, our to, our subject, and our message are in fact there. And we can send HTML and all that through if we really want to. In fact, we'll just do so strong. Okay. So now if I refresh, hope that they're constant expressions contain invalid line 8. 8. Or is it saying? Okay. Let me just try putting this directly in there. Don't think that the issue's here. You know what? Let me just do a test real quick. See if the issue is something that I missed. $465, which I know for a fact that's mine. Just do 5. We'll save that. And we'll just check and see if there's an issue with. Nope. Okay. So now it's on 19. Okay, so Close that, and we'll just set this here. I'm thinking that the issue something to do with liking using. Okay. There we go. So it's taking a while to send, which is good. So it means that there's an actual issue using the config inside default, which that's fine. If I really want to, I could probably set it to the variable out here and then pass the variable through. But as you see, it's taking a while to send, and it probably will take a long while to send or even error out at this point. But the fact that it's taking a while to send means that more than likely it's actually working. This is sort of just how PHPMailer is. If you're not on the same server, then it's going to take a long time. Now, hopefully, I'll remember to edit this and cut the timeouts. That way it doesn't take as long on my screen as it takes on your screen. But if I do forget, I apologize. Not editing the same day or anything, so. Well, that's going. Let's see if I can find. We can go through. Let's go through and actually talk about what exactly we've done and do a recap, because this has been a very long episode. So first we installed PHPMailer in the first place. Once we installed PHPMailer using Composer, we grabbed these two U's, which again, those are part of the namespaces, to use PHPMailer. Then we created the email class and we created a private variable for mail. Then in our constructor, we set all of the config information equal to the mail variable. And then we created a send function that allows us to set from field all these different fields. And once we set the fields, which it can take an array, associative array, a normal array, or just plain text. Sorry about that. It can take. It checks to see if it's an array. If it is an array, it checks to see if it's an associative array and if specific keys exist. If those specific keys don't exist, but it is an associative array, then adds it by default with the key value pair. And then if it is not a associative array, it then actually just loops through it and grabs the email. If it's not an associative array and it's plain text, it just sets it direct. And it does this for the from, to, reply, and attributes. Not attributes, sorry, attachments. We then go back to the send function and we call all of these functions that we created. We then set HTML, subject, body, and then the alternate body in case for whatever reason it doesn't support HTML or anything. We have the alternate, and then we send them the email. Now it looks like it actually did fail because the execution time's just too high. We can check and see if I did happen to get an email, which I didn't. We'll try one more time, and if it doesn't work after this, then we know that the issue is just the execution, how long it takes to actually send it. And there's not much we can really do about that. So we'll go back to here. So we send the email, and then if for whatever reason it can't send the email, it then runs an exception. Now, if we're using the debug mode, then it will just echo a message and kill the application. But if we're not in debug mode, it will just return false. That way we don't get any sort of error just popping up randomly, which is exactly what we want. And that pretty much concludes everything that we've done in the email module. So it's still loading, so it might fail. And if it does fail again, unfortunately, I can't show proof that it works, but it does work. I've used this, well, not this exact same code, but something very similar to it. In fact, I rewrote this on the fly because I had pre-written a lot of this, and just instead of using functions, I'd written all this directly into it. But to be honest, I like using the functions more, so that's why I went ahead and did that. In the next video, we'll build an IMAP function, which if you don't know what IMAP, and actually I don't know if it'll be the next video, but we'll build an IMAP function that will allow us to actually retrieve emails directly from our server. And so you'll be able to view information and other things like that. And I may even extend an auth class for that, so that way you can log in and persist a session for IMAP. But in fact, you know what? How about after the WordPress clone? Because I'm planning on building a WordPress clone with this, and I don't know how many more modules I'm going to build out before I actually start building that WordPress clone. But I think I'm going to build out, I'm going to do a series where we build out a WordPress clone using this framework. And then after the WordPress clone, I think I'm going to build a webmail system as well. And hopefully that will get, yeah, so it looks like it filled out again. Go back here. Yeah, so it failed out again. Unfortunately, we're just not going to be able to prove that this works, but I know for a fact that it does. If it was failing for any other reason, it would actually tell us, but it's timing out. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If you've liked this video, if this video has helped you, please click that like and subscribe button. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.